What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. Today's guest is Joe Serafin. He is the founder and principal broker of Serafin Real Estate. He's closed over 750. It's really a billion, but we're going to say 750 since he's been at Serafin in commercial real estate transactions by combining predictive analytics, strategic pricing, and best-in-class marketing to help owners maximize property value. I'm going to give Joe a really good and thorough introduction here in a second, but I've been excited to speak with Joe for quite some time, not because, one of the reasons was because I spent some time in Loudoun County and was driving around seeing substation after substation after substation, right?
Data center row, man.
We have and also a mutual acquaintance that we both work with in Edward Winslow. So just excited to have him here again. If you are here live, make sure you're dropping your comments and questions into the chat because we are monitoring those. Garrett Pearson is saying 650 million in closed transactions means Joe has seen enough deals to know what actually separates top producers from the pack. That's exactly right, Garrett. That's why we've got him here on the show. Michael Meyer always showing up. The best real estate decisions combine market experience with data that turns insights into action. 100%. That's why we host this podcast, for one simple reason, and that is because clarity beats noise. Look, there's no shortage of predictions and opinions and headlines about commercial real estate, and what we try to bring is grounded, market-specific insight from people actually doing the work. All right, so that's what we're here to talk about today. On that note, if you need any support, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, mostly Missouri and Kansas, reach out to our team here. You can find us at www.mwcreadvisors.com. And we've got a lot of interesting opportunities coming up for you to evaluate. All right, Joe, he is the founder, CEO, and principal broker of Serafin Real Estate, which is a boutique commercial brokerage headquartered in Leesburg, Virginia. Now, let me ask you this. I was up at Middleburg, Virginia. So how far away was I from Leesburg?
You're about 20 minutes, and we spent quite a bit of time in Middleburg recently. Even
just beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Event centers, that's kind of a vertical that we've gotten into, and the land, the wedding venues, the event centers, they're still happening out there. So a lot of wealth out in Middleburg as well.
100%. We stayed at one of those properties. It was a couple hundred acres. They rented out the whole place. It had a hotel and some houses on it. I can't remember exactly what it was called. I know there's one very popular one there, but it wasn't that one. It was the other one that everybody.
So not the Salamander.
Not the Salamander.
Not the Salamander. Okay, it was probably the White Moose Lodge, maybe. Okay.
That wasn't White Moose, but it was right around in that location. And so it was just a gorgeous facility, and the grounds were awesome. Had a good time running some hills over there. But Serafin works almost exclusively on the sell side and the landlord side, representing property owners across the full spectrum of commercial real estate. So that's office, retail, flex, industrial, land, owner-user facilities, special purpose assets, which I've seen you be very active in the last few months, and triple net investments throughout Northern Virginia. Look, Joe, you've been in the industry now 19 years, all right? So I'm coming up on my 10th year, which is exciting to say, but there's a lot of listeners here that, definitely haven't done anything for 19 years, but for sure haven't been in commercial real estate for 19 years, especially having over $1 billion of transactions under your belt, man. I'm excited just to hear kind of your journey and how you got into commercial real estate and where you foresee it going. So I think that's where we're going to start, right? Is over the last 19 years, you've built your business. And I always say, from our friend Bob Knackle, says we're always in the information and relationship business. And I love to see all the information that you put out around predictive analytics. So tell me a little bit about over the last 19 years, how that has progressed and how that's been beneficial for you operating in the commercial real estate space.
Yeah, well, Logan, I appreciate you having me on the show. I was looking forward to this as well. You and I have a lot of commonalities, I think, in our brokerage,
Yes.
or the technology platforms that we use, our interest in it, and so forth. So thank you, and thanks for the intro. I've always been a numbers guy, so understanding numbers kind of goes similar to, like, the whole Bodnackle method and things like that. You got to know your numbers, got to know the information. And what I've seen, I mean, when I first got started, it was actually '05. So I guess it's been about 21 years.
Yeah.
I mean, things were much different, right? I mean, we were tracking things on Excel spreadsheets or notebooks or things like that. And there wasn't the public data as much as it is available right now. What I've seen, more recently, obviously with the help of AI and how we could track things a little bit better. You mentioned our activity in, like, the special purpose properties, right?
Yes.
And kind of to define that for the audience, what that means, at least to us, is we're huge in the childcare industry space, in the school industry, and it is a very defined niche, but it's a great vertical for us.
For sure.
A lot of the data out there is not accurate, and it's not even reported because it can be a sensitive industry, especially if you're selling a child care building.
Yeah.
It's not a triple net. So how do you track that? Well, there is public data that's out there, and you just have to get a little creative with it. We could track every single licensed center by going to the Virginia Department of Education, which ones opened, which ones have closed down, how many active. I could tell you today there's 121 active commercial child care centers in Loudoun County, 462, I believe, in Fairfax. And it's tracking that data so we can have a historical record. Now, it's one thing keeping the historical record, and then over the last, 15, 20 years, it's another thing using that to predict. We, have this 20-year historical information on these centers, and where they trade today, $500, $550 a square foot, is much different than it was, 10 years ago, 11 years ago in Loudoun County. Loudoun County was hitting a population boom at that time. A lot of housing was being developed.
Yeah.
So now what does the housing bring? It brings families, and it brings that need for childcare. You have high household incomes, and how high household incomes reflect a high tuition. So it's making those comparisons. It's using now certain AI platforms that can help us correlate the information from why a spike might be happening. For example, again, going back to Loudoun, with all that construction boom, we saw the properties go from $200 a square foot to $350 a square foot in 2016 and 17, because there was, I don't remember the exact, X amount of houses that were actually built and delivered, and a major population spike at that same time. So that need was there. We've seen a decrease lately. Prior to COVID, there was 192 around the area, and that was an issue in that industry. Staffing became an issue. So using AI to help us with outside factors that might be a relational data point helps us kind of forecast where the market's going. And because it's such a tight niche, how much the market's actually not affecting it. The office market has no effect on it, for example. But the overall consensus and rates and all that do play in. So
absolutely. Yeah. Just it came to me, Goodstone Inn is where I was at.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's yeah. Yep. I've actually stayed there as well.
So that was an incredible property. You are up in just some of the most beautiful land I've ever been a part of. So back to the show.
Great food there, by the way. We went there, my wife and I, for an anniversary one year. Yeah.
It was an awesome stay. We had a great time. But that was what really, I asked the grooms and the groomsmen what they did. And can you guess? Every single one of them were in the data center industry. So we'll get to that here in a second. But I want to double click on this predictive analytics. And I think it's a part of, brokerage in the sense that, or development and investing, of identifying market trends before your competitors do. I think a really top tier commercial real estate professional is one that can tell where the trends are headed, right? I think Gretzky said something along the lines of like, skate to where the puck is headed, right? And maybe more recent and pressing is, Lionel Messi. He might walk more than any other player out there, but he is in the right place at the right time. He sees where the things are going, how the trends are developing. Okay. So in commercial real estate, it's very similar. So, but how do you define those trends and figure out those? It's because of 20 years of analysis and knowing what's going on in the market. Now you enter in artificial intelligence. Okay. Well, by its very definition, it is artificial and it's intelligence. You have to have the right intelligence, and it's going to go scrape and hallucinate on data that it wants to find and try to help you with your inferences. But when you can direct it to verifiable data and say, do not go to outside sources, only review this information from the last 20 years, that's where you start to get some really interesting pattern recognition and trends. Okay. And so I love that you had mentioned that, because if you are tracking all of these different sales metrics, lease metrics, population growth, new businesses that are being developed, new subdivisions, now you can put all of this information and you can almost, recognize patterns beforehand versus it's just your intuition, right? And I think that's what is going to be the next layer of commercial real estate intelligence. And that's where the person that has been doing all of these things for 20 plus years comes into consideration. And so I think that technology separates top brokers from the rest for sure, but it's also how you use it. And we're bringing on new people all the time here at the firm. We're up to 10 folks at Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors. And I've said this multiple times over the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, that skill that I just mentioned could be a dying skill in the sense that everybody's just going to go to artificial intelligence and push the easy button. But in 2005, there was no easy button.
No.
Even in 2016, 17, when I was getting going, there was no easy button. Like we couldn't just ask, Claude or whatever to underwrite a property for us. Like it was Excel, it was doing the math, it was pulling out the TI-83 calculator and working through it. Right. Whatever calculator it was.
And forget about putting together like, a quality like brochure. I mean, how long did that take? Even 10 years ago, we're now, I mean, as long as the data checks out and things like that, you could have a polished document that's investor institutional grade ready. That took, days, if not weeks to
100%.
And it still didn't look anything like what it's being produced today.
Absolutely. And so there's this fine like counterbalance between understanding how to utilize analytics and then using that experience that you actually bring to advise clients. And those are two different components. And what I'm seeing is like a merging of the folks that are really good at the experience side and advising clients being able to use artificial intelligence to do data analytics. And for example, a meeting that would take us 3-4 hours, a couple days to prepare for, if you've got 30 minutes to an hour and you know how to use your analytics software and use artificial intelligence, you can really get versed very fastly in getting ready for meetings. That's where I've started to see it be very valuable.
I'll fill you in on something that we've developed and actually is in use here, because I'm a big proponent of proprietary data, right?
Sure.
Proprietary tools also. Now we're not as large as we have 7 of us, but we have 7 of us, and we are the highest sales volume for any commercial brokerage firm based out of Loudoun. There's 158.
Absolutely.
So we could handle a lot. I mean, I think on the market right now we have 350 million.
Wow.
So if you're looking for tools that are beneficial to not just myself, but also to the other brokers. Some that are not as technology, advanced, but some of them. So I actually developed a tool. You just said preparation, right? So this tool actually uses a back-end Claude, actually, like the Maximum Plan. The team that I have, and it's we have a Gmail, it's a business Google Workspace.
Same here.
Where we developed by code that helped me write a little icon, those Gmail add-ons where you could click. It'll parse, if you're receiving an email from somebody and they're inquiring about a listing, let's say. Okay, we could click on this icon. It'll parse the normal information, their name, their phone number. But there's a second step that you can take if you run it, and it's run AI deep dive. So it'll put out information. It'll, find LinkedIn, find variable resources, chamber things, all that. And it knows the way that we work as well. So it gives us a whole rundown on exactly who this person is, how they fit into our wheelhouse. Is there any other locations of similarity to the property that they looked at? So we know when we call back, what kind of conversation are we going to be getting into? Are we talking to somebody who they've never done a commercial deal before? This is their first one, versus somebody who has 5 to 10 other locations of a similar property type.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. That's how the conversation is geared. That's all done in less than 3 minutes of receiving that lead and to the time we call back. So we already have a gauge, and it's not perfect, but a good gauge on who are we going to be speaking with.
Man, that's incredible,
right? We all have 24 hours a day, and we want to be spending our time as wisely with the right people as possible. So that qualifier, I launched it internally about a month ago. I mean, saves, I don't know what the metric is on the time it saves. I find it extremely useful. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can imagine that being so helpful. And I've done some similar things. I'm going to give 2 use cases. One being, we were preparing for a meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission of a municipality here in Kansas City. And we were representing a build-to-rent developer. They had traditionally been against build-to-rent communities. And we were able to use artificial intelligence to help us figure out some research on the properties that had been either approved or denied based on their planning and zoning meeting minutes and their agendas, as well as it pulled in, hey, by the way, you might want to know that they're going through their planning and comprehensive planning and review process right now. So it's actually a really great time to bring that up. So we brought that up, and then we said, look, like, if you approve a build to rent community, out of the tax dollars that's going to be generated here, 80% of them are going to your schools. And you're saying the number one thing people are moving out is because they can't afford to live in the location, and you've got declining on the school side. They're going other places. Like, here's your opportunity, right? And so it just really caught their attention very quickly, and it started to resonate so much more. So again, Brilliant. It was just like a search that we had did, through artificial intelligence, gave us back a meeting dossier and said, these are the things that, and so it also said, here are your 3 asks, like ask for a seat at the table during this comprehensive vision and planning process. And, a defined process for build to rent. And don't call build to rent multifamily, because the communities are very different than a 4-story garden style or whatever it is, multifamily property. So Jennifer Cupid is here saying it's very impressive. We love it. So I don't know. Do you know Jennifer?
Jennifer happens to be our director of brokerage operations.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you for being here, Jennifer. I appreciate that.
Jennifer gets a bonus.
Yes, absolutely. Here's another one, man. So with the electrification going on of the United States, we had the opportunity to pitch a company that wants to deploy 180 DC fast chargers here in Kansas City through Claude. And I use GenSpark. I think it uses Claude. But long story short, I was able to go pull from, I forget the exact company's website, but it was, I pulled all of the actual chargers that were in the Kansas City metro area, and it mapped them for me on an interactive map where we can actually zoom out, look in, and then identified 3 different gap analysis here for us on high priorities in Platte, Wyandotte, and South Johnson County. And it then showed me how many Tesla superchargers, DC fast chargers were in the city. Look, that took me less than 3 minutes. It went and pulled the data and then put it on a map for me. I presented this and we won the business just like that. So Joe, I mean, it's really impressive what can be done now if you know what you're working with.
I love it. And then, the ultimate benefit comes to the client, right? So just how you added a ton of value by opening the planning commission's eyes open to that, help build a ton of value, immeasurable value to them.
Yes,
We do a lot of BOVs, right?
that's right.
In our business, we do a lot of BOVs. And I had one, here's another example, very, very recent, within the last week. And it's for some land out in Prince William County. Now, what I will tell you, like the three counties that we deal in are Loudoun, Fairfax, Prince William, and then some of the cities like around too, but Northern Virginia. Prince William County, their sales volume, we put out a quarterly report. Well, the mid-year report, Prince William County's already sold or transacted 82% of what all of 2025 has done. That's better than any of the counties. Not a surprise, because we're going to get into your world a little bit, the data center world. They took away by right zoning in Loudoun County last July. Okay. A lot of that movement is going to Prince William County. The parcels in Loudoun are 6 million an acre, 6.1 million an acre. In Prince William County, it's still 2 to 3. So this parcel that we were asked to do a BOV on was an assemblage parcel of a decent amount of acreage, raw land. And they were on the market back in 2017 around 6.4 million. Okay. So we don't even look, we look a little bit at that data, but we look at what's current. Well, because of all this movement, Prince William County came out with a data center overlay. Okay, now we're running everything through kind of Claude as well on updated meeting minutes. And there happened to be one right nearby, like less than a mile away, on a parcel very similar in size in the data center overlay, which helped us with our evaluation of this land parcel. There's still some more research that needs to be done, but ultimately it's an 11 to 12 million, maybe $13 million parcel without the data center. But it disclosing to the client, the potential seller, there may be an avenue down here for a data center development. If that's the case, we're moving that. I mean, that's going to be closer to that 18 to 20 million. I mean, several $1 million more. So
Absolutely.
And it's also knowing the market, right? Knowing who the buyers would be, knowing about, data centers and all of that are extremely popular around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what makes so much sense is if we had to do that like we were doing it in 2005, it would be calling the city, going down there, getting the probably the plan and the overlay, talking to people that are putting together. So there's 2 days, 3 days, a week to try to get that information. Then we have to come back and overlay that on a map and figure out what's the opportunity for this to actually go move and showcase that this could be a data center. And then we got to figure out where the substations are and the KV lines, and does it have water? Does it have natural gas? Now we have open infrastructure map where we can literally pull that and just overlay that within, and it's open. So it's an open source. So now you can export that data, put it into Claude, put the overlay in there, and create whatever map and inferences you need for your BOV. Like, it's just an absolute game changer.
It really is. It really is. And it's also, again, you got to be, I know you're local to the Kansas, we're local here. It's knowing and having that proprietary data, to be able to know it too. So if it does spit out a hallucination or something like that, you're able to catch it.
Oh, that's a good point. This is a good point. I'm underwriting a deal right now, and I, have all these underwriting softwares, but I just always do a first glance at using it, GenSpark or whatever I'm using. And because I'm putting in 15 different documents. Hey, compare May's financials to June's. Tell me what changed, right? Like, okay, I like to know those inferences, but it spit out the underwriting. And guess what? It misallocated 3 different tenants in the building on the square footages, on the rent rolls, and everything like that. And I said, well, I know for a fact that one is not in 300 square feet. They're in 3,300 square feet, right? But if you just take the output at face value, it's not going to be 100% correct ever, in my opinion. And also, you might see something that says, holy cow, like, that's a great call out. It's not actually true, but it should be something I should be thinking about. But you still have to be able to use your own intuition and your experience blended. And that's where I think that, like, the Pareto's principle becomes fractal here. So, like, top 20% doing 80%, right? But now if you're doing things like this to help price properties to maximum value, the top 10% are doing 90%, or maybe the 4% are doing a 96%, right? So it's almost like get on board here or get off the train, because you're going to get left behind,
Absolutely. And to kind of flip, I love the Pareto's principle, by the way. 80% of the work that we do when we're putting in a BOV or analyzing a property, anything like that, 80% of it is the stuff that you don't see. It's that initial research. It's using our data.
That's right.
Verifying our data. Make sure we're pulling from the right areas. Make sure we're pulling and we understand the property and what kind of capital expense it may actually require to get to the comp that we want to use for it, or the other comps. So a lot of that work is the prior, and that's that 20%, which maybe can be lessened now because of the output and the speed that an AI can generate the client facing document, which we'll just take a review basically. So 80-90% all that work beforehand, 10-20% the output, polish it up. AI can do that very good, better than I can. I'm not a graphic designer or anything like that, but it puts out a nice product. We verify it's okay, and now the client sees something easily understandable without all the jargon in the back, the back end work and everything.
Yeah.
That something that we can explain in talking points, because I still believe in face-to-face. I did make a mistake, one time, and did not have a face-to-face, and did it. I think it was a Zoom call, and didn't get the listing. I mean, we win majority of our listing presentations, but did not get that one. I will never do that again. It's face-to-face, or I don't present. But anyways, we do bring those visually appealing documents as a reference to talk through.
Absolutely.
After we've built some rapport.
100%. I think that for looking at the artificial intelligence and just how it's transforming commercial real estate brokerage, the possibilities are endless, but it's not the end all be all. I see people trying to build these robust systems and follow-ups, and I mean, the fundamentals don't change. You need to know your market and know your numbers. And Joe, it is apparent that you know your numbers, and artificial intelligence just helps you with that. Everybody, Joe Serafin is dropping, knowledge bombs from his brain plane right now. So if you've got any questions, be dropping them into the chat. We're evaluating those right now. Something while we're having this podcast is because I saw you doing marketing, right? Yeah. And I'm a huge believer that, yes, we are in commercial real estate, but our main business is creating audiences and knowing who the audience needs to be and getting in front of them in a right way. So you invest heavily in professional marketing for every listing. And so I do want to talk to you about, what is it that you're seeing stand out right now on the marketing side for commercial real estate, man? I mean, the listing platforms, every lead that comes in it is a phishing or a scam or something like that. I mean, it is so high right now, highest it's ever been. One of our brokers was unfortunately, on the back end of that, clicking the Microsoft Teams link, and he's not a tech guy, and he got malware all over his computer. So we can't really rely on, listing platforms that much anymore to find good leads. What marketing are you doing that's creating the demand right now?
Sure. So, to speak on that, and like the leads and the malware and all that, that is part of the reason why I developed that lead qualifier.
Yes.
Is that was another aspect of that. But like rewinding back to like 2019 when I started the company here. So prior to that, when I was thinking about it, and I was looking at the marketing materials of other brokers, or they're marketing a $10 million, $12 million property, and I'm seeing this black and white brochure, floor plan, all that looks like my 11-year-old daughter did it, that sort of thing, and I'm like,
Word documents,
$1 million property, and then I'm looking at the house that has that's $500,000, and I'm like, gosh, look at this, it's beautiful, it's professional photography, it's nice fonts, easily lay out, glossy brochure, and I'm like, why aren't most commercial brokers around here doing something like that? So that was the first thing. The second thing is, I think I'm a huge believer in like aerial shots. You got to be able to see the property. I look at those guys, so our photographer knows when we're listing a property, as long as it's in a fly zone, to get that right angle on there, right? So a couple things. We're big in AI, obviously. So marketing ourselves as a brokerage, we want to make sure that we have presence. That's shout out to Rod Santomaso, but presence, right?
Yes.
We want to be out there. And some of the best compliments that I've got for us is you're omnipresent.
Mm.
And I'm like, I love that. That's a great compliment. That means I'm everywhere.
Yes.
And so on all the, the platforms or the major platforms or the SEO and press releases, we were talking earlier with Ed Winslow, all of
Yep.
that stuff helps. So if we're making a call or somebody's calling, oh yeah, I know you, or I've seen you, or I've heard of your name before, that's great. Reviews, every success story we have, every sale we ask, we don't always get them, but we ask for a review, and luckily luckily enough, we have 5-star reviews across the board. So today, before this podcast, I was at a listing presentation, and one of the, we know that we're going to go with you. I mean, I read all the reviews. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Wow.
We're in. That's a $5.5 million listing. So
wow.
In Ashburn. So no competition, in that. As long as we get to know. And then here's another way, generating leads, going back to like the marketing. You're right, a lot of crap leads come in and filtering through them, and our database is very, very organized. Props to Jennifer who popped up there. She does all that, like keeping it very segmented. We're not at marketing an industrial property to a childcare operator or anything like that. So we're target marketing. We had an interesting assignment recently, and this one is an active listing. It was a property that made all the newspapers locally here because it's owned by a trust, and it's very specific on the need that they have. It has to be special needs, children between certain ages, and they can't charge. It has to go to a nonprofit. Now, the benefit is there's no rent. They do not charge rent for that tenant, and are looking to place. I mean, there's 7 buildings on this property. Well, a lot of our, activity is obviously for-profit. So how do we generate all these nonprofits? So we had some in our database, and we obviously reach out to them, but we want to see who's out there. Well, welcome AI, right?
Yep.
Generate a list of 100 of the top nonprofit centers that specialize in giving help to special needs children, and give me their contact information. Wait a couple minutes, and it spits that out, and we just begin reaching out.
That's right.
Right now, we've this property hit the market about a month and a half ago, and we have, out of the 7 buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 under LOI. So we have 2 more to go. So, and it's from a targeted outreach. We'll blast out other brokers and things like that, but it was very narrowed targeting marketing campaign.
100%, man. I think that this is going to be revolutionary in regards to how transactions are getting done. Obviously, the MLS with single family homes has gone through a big, industry, kind of reformation of who and what gets paid to what. Commercial real estate's always been, I want listings because if I go find the buyer, they're likely not going to be represented, and we're not having to deal with another brokerage. Look, we all co-broker, like it's important to do.
Yep.
But that right there, that is, you mentioned something previously. It's value to the client. Okay. Well, if we don't co-broker, we typically take a lower brokerage fee, so that means it's more money to the client, and we're going straight to a principal, and we're dealing with the decision makers. Okay.
Yep.
This is, I think, something that gets just glossed over, but the ability to find active buyers via deep research and press releases and news articles to see who's expanding and who, and then not only that, have it scrape the web for their phone numbers and emails. They may not be right, but you got the person.
Yep.
So go find the information and get the deal in front of them. Yep. But we do this for every single new listing, right? Like while we're creating our new marketing materials, we are saying, okay, well, we need to generate our outbound strategy. And I had a guy look at me one time and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, dude, we don't just put these up on Crexy and like let them sell themselves." Yep. And frankly, we don't sell properties that do sell themselves. We get the call for the special use property, the one that's 15 acres. It's in a weird spot. It's got old chicken coops on it that we're converting to multifamily. You get it. Like,
yep.
Or we've got powered land, and we're not going to put that up on, just Crexy or anything like that, because, there's very few people that are going to purchase that. So using deep research, creating outbound strategies. And then what I love to hear you say is personalized outreach. So instead of broker blast, and which you still got to do, but big outbound, to everybody, one blanket, it's like, hey, personalize every single message via their recent acquisitions and why we think it would be beneficial to them. Now they're receiving an email that says, oh my gosh, this company did research on our recent acquisitions, our strategy that's on our website, and gave us 3 reasons we think this property fits into it. Okay. Well, one of my mentors is Clint Jameson, and he is an extremely, just a really great person, very successful real estate developer. I send him my marketing materials for land development deals, and he just rips them apart. And I love you, Clint. So I hope you're listening and you see that. And he says, hey, you're missing this, this, and this. Where is this? How am I going to understand the boundaries if I don't have a survey? Where can I get the survey? Why is it not sent to me? Like, it is so beneficial. He has really elevated my game to say, all right, if you've got a list of 10 people and one of them is going to buy it, why send them all the same message? Send them personalized messaging. And guess what? Artificial intelligence can write those for you, and you can review those. I mean, it's just, that's the next layer, I think, that I'm hearing you talk about, you're implementing in your business, and we're doing the same.
Absolutely. And, I'll take this, just continuing on a little bit. We have those people. I have a top client of mine, and he's been doing this for 40 years, probably the second largest landowner in Loudoun County. And I've learned a lot from him. What does Dave say? What does he ask? And I gear those towards that. Or if we're representing a property of his, he has a specific tenant or buyer that he's looking for, honestly. And so what we've done also, with that targeted message and that targeted call, email, whatever it is let's say it's a land play. Well, it's still hard for people, and it's always going to be, to visualize. Right? So we'll do the research. What's the highest and best use? Or what are the 3 top uses of this parcel? And it's even more helpful if that particular seller has maybe some past engineering plans and things like that.
Oh, man.
Well, we can utilize that. So we just launched a parcel. It's in Fairfax City, right off one of the main roads, very rare, a little over an acre land. Well, we found that the best uses of this were, we could do 8,000 to 10,000 square feet. So restaurant, multi-tenant retail, or urgent care.
Yep.
So we took that and we used one of the AI platforms, I don't remember which one, that was able to generate from all the information that we had a marketing rendering, like a rendering image of what that, with the correct parking, 44 parking spaces on the rear, the height restriction that it could have, the ingress, egress, and it utilized it. Now, it utilized that from one of the aerials that our photographer took of raw land. It's raw land. But now we can go, hey, here's a specific OM to you, the urgent care developer or buyer or investor. In there, we know, okay, the urgent care, they're going to rent out for $40 a square foot, triple net, base rent. They usually are going 10 to 15-year leases. Here's your entry. Here's your exit. And of course, we have disclaimers for everything, got to
absolutely
that, right? But it gives us now 3 target markets of different potential buyers that we can go out to with a very specified message and visuals.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, we absolutely are doing the same. If you're in brokerage, you're in development, you need to go back and rewind that about 2 minutes and listen to Joe about that. You could be a developer trying to get tenants. All right. Your marketing materials should not look the same for every single tenant. You probably only got 3 uses anyway. So just do 3 different marketing materials for them. Personalize that. But what you're talking about now is so cool because, they teach residual land value analysis. You can get a master's in this stuff. But guess what? If you got a site plan or you've got permitted uses and you know how to use artificial intelligence, you can draft a site plan and you can do residual land value analysis in a very quick way. And I'm not going to tell you how to do it because it is one of my secret sauces, but go study it. We have won more business bringing landowners down to reality. And I know this is a huge pain point for a lot of people. Man, they want $6 million. It's only worth 4. Well, tell them why. Back it with numbers. So what I present is a site plan, the permitted uses, the rents that can be paid, how much it's going to cost. And then I do hey, developer's going to want 18%. So we got to back that out. And we got to add in our holding costs, our permitting costs. So we add that in. And guess what? Your residual land value analysis to sell this property is actually $4 million, because here's what it's going to cost and what somebody's going to look at it. And that approach, not every owner likes to hear it, but the owners that have, and we've listed those properties, we've priced them correctly.
There you go. And you evidence it by real facts. You can't argue numbers. I mean, you can't argue what where developers are, in terms of their margins or anything like that, or where they need to be. And that's the same thing with an existing property, right? If there's evidence and there's recent data that is real, verified, it's hard to argue with statistical information that's accurate.
We've got a listener question in. We have a lot of people getting into the industry. Appreciate this question. If you were given one piece of advice to a broker or developer entering into the business today, what would you tell them to focus on now that's still going to matter 20 years from now?
Specialize in a niche, without a doubt. So there's a geographic component, obviously. And, I know Logan, you and I both, know Bob, and, kind of like, I mean, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
Again, I've said it, you're an expert in Kansas. I know Northern Virginia. I have no plans on going any other states. So my advice is focus in the geographic region that you are in, and then niche down.
Yeah.
Pick a property type. Don't go too broad. Go, what is it? A mile deep, inch wide, instead of the opposite. Because if you could become a product specialist, we fell into the childcare industry, and that wasn't on purpose. It just kind of happened. And then we ran with it because no other broker was doing it.
That's right.
So maybe find something, make sure, again, spend 80% of your time researching your market and what is transacting, because you want to make sure there's enough inventory to make a good living on that type of property type, and then become the expert in it.
100% agree.
Anything and everything about it.
Yep. And I would say this, if you want to learn more about that strategy, just go read the Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a book that talks about this specifically for businesses, but you can apply it to commercial real estate in many different ways. We have done that. And just anecdotally, if people are telling you, hey, don't do that, you don't take that for face value. It's probably because they couldn't figure it out. And one of the things in Blue Ocean Strategy says is if there's a high barrier of entry and you figure that out and you put a system and a process and niche down on that, man, that is valuable, being able to exploit that one thing. Okay. So that's my 2 cents. I'm going to get into my favorite section, which is quick takes. So we've got some questions here to rapid fire over to you, Joe. You ready?
Yeah, I'll take them.
All right, man. If you could have any superpower in commercial real estate, what would it be?
Mind reading.
Oh, that'd be so good.
That would be unbelievable, right?
Just like in a BOV meeting, and they're like, "We're never giving this listing to this guy. Wish you would just finish up."
Yeah, I need a price of this.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that. I could think of how interesting that would be while you're in meetings and conversations. Man, it probably really help the transaction process. Love that. Mind reading, 100%. All right. Yeah. What's the most unusual property that you've ever sold?
That's a good one. I was going to go with the memorable one.
Okay, let's go memorable as well.
Memorable one was one I wasn't even sure on taking, actually, and this was a couple of years ago. It happened to be a religious facility. You're not really sure, like, how is this market? Is it a good target market? Yeah. They're going to be buyers out there. So I'll make a long story very short, but we won the listing and we were priced around $7,650,000 for it. And groups, it was 34,000 square foot existing church. They needed to get rid of it to relieve some debt. And ultimately the response was there was so much activity on this particular listing. It led to a new strategy that we use today. group tour. We're grouping these tours because there was so much. And we had kind of an all hands on deck at this property. We grouped them within a couple hours purposely so everybody would see all this activity. But a
Yeah,
group tour for a religious facility isn't just one or two people. There's like 20. So we
absolutely.
probably had 100 people or whatever just constantly being filtered through over a couple hours. That generated a ton of interest. So we received 6 bids,
Wow.
all over asking price. We ended up closing that at $8,050,000. So the memorable part of it is because of that sale, it saved the group, the church group that was selling it. It saved their other property because they were under some debt and they were in trouble.
Sure.
They were about to take, the bank was going to take both churches back. Because of that sale, they paid off their debt and still put $3.5 million basically that they were able to use for the community.
Game changer.
The buyer was another religious group that had been looking for a decade that finally found a home. I saw the announcement of that, and their first made news and all that because there was hundreds of them out there. So a good feeling kind of story.
For
But that's
sure.
a memorable one that I'd have to come back to you on the unusual one.
All right.
There's a lot of unusual ones, but so.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing. If you got a book or a podcast that you're into right now, share it with the listeners.
Yeah. So I'm a huge podcast listener, huge reader. I've read, selling buildings, anything basically that's business minded or anything like that. I'm reading right now. It's called The Real Estate Exit Blueprint. We all have to set our businesses in a way that there is a value if you're not there or you have an exit plan. I'm not saying anytime soon, but someday, so how to structure the business that way. Podcast, I listen to you. I listen to the AI Market Movers, which is like an AI thing, AI work. I listen to Bo Barron's thing. So anything really commercial real estate related, or sometimes it's AI, or sometimes it's like entrepreneurial type stuff.
5 years from now, this isn't on the screen, but I want to ask you this. 5 years from now, with everything that's going on, artificial intelligence, not from a brokerage and transaction standpoint, but just as an industry as a whole, what looks different in how properties are being sold, what's in the properties? I envision an opportunity where properties are connected. And what I mean by that is we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence, but if you're a property asset manager and you're a REIT and you've got 1,500 properties, whatever it is, maybe you only have 10, but you could pull up a chat and start chatting with your property. I think that happens in the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
What's the occupancy? What's the utility right now? What's how many people are in the building using the videos that are on site? What's the rental status of this property? How many tours were at the property? Yep. Well, that's what I envision, man. What do you envision in 5 to 7 years?
I love that. And that's kind of at the fingertips, I think, of a lot of these things right now. We're used to all these SaaS products, right?
Yes.
And these CRMs. And there's already things right now that you can do to remember those. I mean, AI has a memory and things like that. And if you're working as a team where, you have hey, who would be the right buyer? Or who do I need to reach out to or whatever? We just listed this at XYZ's, Main Street for $3 million. Who's my right buyer? Who's the one that, and it'll know that because it has so much information and so much historical information on maybe the chats that you've had or your email even, or your drive, that it's going to be able to do its own predictive analytics just by asking a very simple question. So
powerful stuff.
I think the organization is better 5 years from now of a lot of that information, as long as you know how to still know the basics and how to prompt it, and and it does have correct information in it. So the clunky old CRMs and all of that, I think, will be kind of, unless they catch up somehow, won't be as utilized because there'll be products within these platforms.
Yeah, man. Maybe 10 years from now, our CRM is going to somehow be stored in our brains.
Yeah,
and it's like telepathy to our brains. I mean, Elon's not that far off with Neuralink, trying to help people that are, quadriplegics move their legs, and blind people see. And I mean, you just never know, right? Yeah. If we've got all of this compute and it's truly working on solving cancer and running millions of, models and tests on a regular basis, maybe in 5 to 10 years, a blind person actually can see, I have no idea, but the possibilities are endless. What will reign true with commercial real estate and business is information and relationships. We've talked a lot about that today. Joe, it's been an absolute blessing to spend about an hour with you here today. If folks want to follow along, if they got interest in Northern Virginia, point them in the right direction.
Yep. So best place, go to serafinre.com. That's our website. There's contact information there. You can also call our office line, 703-261-4809. I won't give you Jennifer, the director, her cell phone, because she's for doing that right now. But yeah, she is the ringmaster that kind of keeps us all organized. So happy to help any way we can.
Yeah, well, I will say that between you and I, and now everybody listening, and that is going to listen, modeled my website right off of serafinre.com.
Yeah, I saw.
I read a book one time by Austin Kleon. It said like steal like an artist, and I was on your website for like 6 hours one day. If there was somebody in Kansas City, it was me over here taking notes, sending it to my website team. See how Joe does this and that, and see that press release, how that's pointed in there. Fantastic website.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, Logan. Dude, you are the man. I was looking forward to this. You know your stuff. I feel like we're counterparts in different areas. So
absolutely.
Anything comes across my desk that it's a Kansas City, you're my go-to. So
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. If you have any needs in regards to buying, selling, investing, developing commercial real estate in Kansas or Missouri, reach out to us, www.mwcreadvisors.com. Joe Serafin, serafinre.com, Northern Virginia, Loudoun County. He's got it going on. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you guys listening and being here today. Joe, appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all.